Well, hello there. Tom Green coming back at you with some XD goodness. And today's goodness is learning how to work with the new animated strokes feature of XD. I have to admit, it's pretty neat. It is a rather nifty way of grabbing the user's attention, but there are some things you need to know before you add this feature to your UI design arsenal. So let's get started. And before we get going, I'm going to be using this document for the next series of videos. I'm going to do this one, and then we're going to talk about working with charts, and we're also going to deal with this one here. So let's get started. So I'm going to zoom in on this little badge here. And as you can see, it is a blue circle with an image fill. So the first thing you need to know is it isn't the stroke that gets animated. It is the dash and gap values that are animated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this shape to a component. And this way I have the effect constrained to one artboard. Now I'm going to add a hover state. But the magic happens in the default state. So I'm going to select the default state, and let's take a look at working with these strokes. So you can see that I've got this blue stroke around the badge, and if I give myself a 5-pixel dash, you can see I get that effect. But really what makes this effect work is working with not only the dash but the gap, which is the space between. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of the dash. Just set it back to 0. And I'm going to give myself a 10-pixel gap value. Now if you look closely, you can see that you've got some very thin blue lines. These are the 10-pixel gaps, and the blue lines are basically the dash. Now what I'm going to do here is increase the gap. So I'm going to select the gap, and then holding down my Shift and up arrow keys. Now you guys on PC can use the Shift and up arrow, or even better, if you're on a PC, you can actually select the gap value and then just drag up and increase the value that way. So here we go. So what I want to do is I want to have this little stroke right here as the only one that's there. So I'm going to push down the up arrow, and you can see I've still got some of the strokes. You see, so I've got that little one there. And there's one right here. So you really got to pay attention to what you're doing. There we go. Now take a look at the gap value, 410 pixels. So that's the default position of this component. Now if I come over to the hover state, what I want to do is have this stroke appear. And that works with the dash. So I can just hold down the Shift key and watch what happens when I start increasing the dash. And there we go. Now notice the two values are equal. So now I can take my component, go to the prototype mode, select the default state, and we'll just add a hover state to it. And we'll have this happen over, let's say, 2 seconds. Oops, got to select the whole thing. So let's see what we've got. So I'm going to test it. And let me bring the preview in. And if I go over it, you can see there's the effect. So there's how you work with the animated stroke. You're working with the dash values and the gap values. Now in the next one, I'm going to show you how to work with a graph. And I'll tell you, it's a little on the weird side, so you got to be careful with this one. I'll see you there.